now a backbench Tory mutiny is rumbling as Rishi Sunak faces calls to sack Home Secretary Suella Braverman over a controversial op-ed that she wrote accusing the Metropolitan Police of bias.
Number 10 has insisted the Prime Minister has full confidence in Braverman, but Downing Street is looking into how the article got published, which it says was not cleared by Sunak. Joining us now is Lord Mann, former Labour MP and UK Government advisor on anti-Semitism. Lord Mann, good morning to you. What do you think the outcome of this row will be? Is Suella going to be given her marching orders, and if so, when?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, you'd have to ask the Prime Minister that, but I'm the backdrop to that. It's reasonable to say I'm a seasoned observer inside Westminster of events that go on, and there's a huge ideological battle that's been going on for some time inside the Conservative Party. And so whatever happens to the Home Secretary, that battle won't end. It will continue, and partly a battle, some people who think they'll succeed or could succeed Rishi Sunak in the future, and it's partly about kind of the heart and soul of the Conservative Party, what it stands for. That's not going to end, and that's not going to change. And this is undoubtedly just one of the example of it flaring up in rather a big way, probably where the Prime Minister wishes it wouldn't. But what I hope is this weekend that the whole Armistice Day remembrance commemorations, which of course are nationwide in every village, town, city in the country, it's not just in London, will go ahead with large attendance and go ahead in the appropriate solemn way that they should. And we rely on the police to do that. But also that the Jewish community doesn't get dragged into the ideological battle in the Conservative Party, because I don't think that would be good for the Conservative Party. It's not good for politics, but it's very bad for the Jewish community. And what the Jewish community wants, like everybody else, is to be able to get on with their lives without any hassle. And the fear at the moment that people in the Jewish community, and I've been crossing the country, meeting Jewish communities, they fear that the horrific events that happened in Israel and the aftermath of that are going to blow up literally in their face, in the sense of, people attacking synagogues or Jewish properties and businesses. And we rely on the police to deal with it. And so far, I have to say, the way the police have had a higher presence in Jewish communities in London, in Manchester, in Leeds, in other areas, as in Belfast, where the same thing's happening, where the police have been excellent in having that presence in the Jewish community, so that people's fears about what might happen don't become a reality for them.
Can I just jump in and ask you, has Sir Mark Rowley got this right? Because I've spoken to many members of the Jewish community who are deeply frightened about going out in this country for fear of being persecuted. We've got also problems within the Labour Party, I think, as well, in terms of Keir Starmer and his response. But also just going back to Mark Rowley, has he got the balance right? Because many people, including the Prime Minister, say you have the existing powers, you can shut this march down. I heard Ian Duncan-Smith, for example, saying you can protest, just don't protest tomorrow. It's a sacred day when we remember those people who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
They're reasonable points to make. But there's protests in other parts of the country. There'll be protests next week. We live in a democracy. If people want to protest, they'll find ways of protesting. I was hearing in your news report, I think you described them as 400 trade unionists. Well, it won't be working class people taking a day off work and losing pay to try and stop other workers from working at British Aerospace. It'll be students, etc., turning up, trying to block people working. And again, that's not nice for the workers at British Aerospace trying to earn a decent day's pay and be able to feed their families. And so you can't stop protests, and we live in a democracy. What the police can do is make sure that others aren't impacted. And the police presence in Jewish communities has been superb. It's been superb. Let me be very, very clear And that's been my advice to government, that the police presence across Jewish communities has been top rate. It needs to be maintained, and that shouldn't lead to complacency. And the cooperation between the police and the Jewish self-organisation, the Jewish community, the Security Trust, which does internal security for Jewish schools and community centres, etc., is superb, has been superb, and the government's put more money in to allow that to be expanded at the moment. The numbers involved in that. That's all brilliant stuff, and that's working well. Where there is a fear is when people see extremists making extremist calls. And, you know, if there's 100,000 or 200,000, how many people marching in London, the majority are not extremists, but within them there are extremists. There are extremists who are calling for the most aberrant things against Jews. And there are the Marxist extremists, political extremists, who jump on every bandwagon and, of course, are in the thick of this, trying to wind everything up, calling for some kind of so-called revolution. And those two types of people are a problem, and they are a threat to the Jewish community. The Jewish community sees it, and that there are the powers there. But I think what the police would say, and I've been saying this internally, is the police have to decide how best to deal with that. Do you wade into a demonstration and arrest people and potentially, you know, have quite a punch-up or whatever as you do so? Or do you wait till afterwards? And I was very pleased to see on Thursday, two of the most egregious anti-Semites who were filmed on the very first demonstrations, somewhat 4 weeks ago, were arrested and will be prosecuted. We'll see what a jury decides. But that,
John,
to
can
me,
I just come in? I mean, your point about how the police deal with this is the point that Suella Braverman was making, wasn't it? That they pick and choose how hard they police different protests depending on which side of the political divide they are. But I just want to bring in some pictures that we're getting of a protest that's taking place right now. You mentioned British aerospace in your last answer. Dozens of pro-Palestinian protesters have blocked the entrances to a BAE Systems factory in Kent. It is Britain's biggest military supplier. This particular facility is where BAE tests and assembles electronic equipment used on military aircraft and in surveillance systems. And they are calling for an end to arms sales in Israel. You can see that sign there being held up, Stop Arming Israel. They're calling for an end to the UK government's complicity, they say, in war crimes being committed in Palestine by ending arms sales to Israel and supporting an immediate ceasefire. How effective is a protest like this one, John Mann?
Not effective at all. I think you'll find that the unions, the big unions who organise in British aerospace, will be very angry that their members have been targeted in this way. And this is, this is a bunch of political activists targeting working class people, doing a good job for a big British company that's a successful exporter. And if people want to argue about the rules on exporting, they're political decisions made in Parliament. So that's a legitimate, I don't agree with them, by the way, that's a legitimate issue to argue with MPs. It's not legitimate to be targeting the workers, the employees of British aerospace. And that's precisely an area where the police should be ensuring that those workers can get to and from their work with no hassle and without the kind of idiots who'll try and jump on the roof and things like that, going from past experience. And it's the same people, I find. You know, the same people who jump on power stations. They get a buzz out of that kind of activity. And now they're pretending that they support the Palestinians. No, what they support is the buzz they get from
Well,
that kind of...
I think there are real concerns about what happens tomorrow. I was pleased to see Sir Mark Rowley saying that he keeps it under review. At the moment, they have agreed that this protest can take place. Just very quickly, and I mean quickly if we can, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt has distanced himself from the Home Secretary Suella Braverman's criticism of the Metropolitan Police. He went on to say the words that she used are not words that I myself would have used. Does that point towards her dismissal, do you think?
Well, it points to this ongoing battle in the Tory party. But let me say, I advise on anti-Semitism. The police have a very difficult job to do in this country. I trust our police. My experience working with them across the country, I find when it comes to the Jewish community, the police are reliable. I hope they'll continue to be reliable. And I hope politicians will give them the resource they need, enough police on the streets and the ability